Bentornati fra noi al convegno.
So welcome back to the meeting of operational sustainability. We should have our Argentinian friends connected online. Are you with us? Yes, we're all there. Hello, Mariflor. Welcome among us. It was a very rich moment that we shared together, and we want to continue growing in this mutual understanding. Yesterday, Osvaldo Barrenechea told us in his conference, because we invited him to give us a conference, that the ethnohistory helps us to emphasize some key points of ecological policies of the Andean culture, as in the case of good living, and the dynamic bond between past and present. And the origin of this concept is due to a reformulation, an implementation and actualization of the ancestral knowledge with the knowledge and the challenges of those communities in the present. The centrality and balance between human communities and their natural surrounding that is at the basis of the cosmovision of the Andean people is the pillar to introduce an alternative proposal that has points in common with the concept of rational sustainability, and also it is part of a political project that found a way of implementation in the new text of the constitutions of Ecuador and Bolivia. Mr. Luca Servigno emphasized this morning that we need to meet the Aboriginal people with a desire to listen to them and interiorize and convert ourselves to their wisdom richness so that we can be enriched with their eco-philosophy. A wisdom that has to be integrated to divine wisdom and to human wisdom to enrich relational sustainability and integrate it. So we want to know something about this big wisdom that is inspired to the cosmovision of the original people of Latin America and the Caribbean region. So we want to listen to the voice of some protagonists. We thank Jerry and Manuel and Tina. We know that she follows us from Guatemala. Great thanks to them for sharing their experience in the video that we are going to watch now. The environmental issue in the ancestral cultures of Central America. We have invited them to talk to them about the good living, about the principle of rational sustainability, how these principles are lived in their culture. So we want to begin with the first questions. What are the principles of Andean cosmovision based on the Quechua and Aymara cultures? We can begin with you, Jerry. Thank you very much. Especially for answering these questions, we need to reflect a little bit and go to the core of the philosophy of good living. And this concept, this paradigm, this logic that comes out in a strong way today, because there is a crisis that is not only economic and social or juridical, but especially that there's a crisis of life for humanity. Humanity is the thought that made us immerse into the logic of living good, which implies deprivation, it implies competition, it implies thinking of ourselves and forgetting about others. So to understand the world from the Aymara vision means to have a coexistence. In the Aymara thought, we have a word that translates with the sublime, excellent, magnificent, in total fullness. And another word, kamanya, that means to live together. And so the translation of Summa Kamanya is to live in fullness, to live well, to be able to live together and live in balance and in equilibrium. So this is the philosophy of the good living of the indigenous Aymara people. So within this vision of the Andean culture, we can say that Aymara culture is based on two ancestral principles, the complementarity and reciprocity. Complementarity does not only refer to the use of our resources of the Mother Earth, which is the Pacha Madre, that she gives us generously, but it goes beyond all these. There is another vision, if I look at this from this point of view. It is circular, it is cyclical, it emphasizes equilibrium and harmony, not only among human beings, but between all the forms of life. It is a multidimensional aspect, the diversity of thought, diversity of culture, diversity of expression of life is conceived, and the complementary approach is very much respected, and it is important because we are all the same, we all have the same rights, and everything is integrated, so everything is interdependent. So instead of talking only about what we call today as machism, we talk about equal rights. So you have to see men and women in their complementarity. And also from this we have life and equilibrium of social relations. The vision of the world is emphasized because that is where we want to explain how we understand the community. For original indigenous people, the community is everything. From the mountains to the father son, to the small ants, to trees and animals and stones and human beings. Everything is part of the community. Even the ancestors are part of the community. Instead, the community itself, for what there many think that it is only a human social structure. And this is the reason why we also have to see a community as a whole. So this Andean cosmovision sees the importance of taking care of the resources of Mother Nature. When we say circular or cyclical, it is that before seeding, first we seeded only in one part, then the place where we have seeded has been left to rest, and they went somewhere else to give the earth a time to breathe and to rest. A mother has a right to rest and a right to take care of herself. So we should also get into the meaning of Aini, that means reciprocity. to give the best of oneself and obtain the best of the universe. And Ivy is a basic principle of the vision of the undying world. It teaches us that reciprocity is the key to maintain the equilibrium of the universe. And this core invites us to be in constant contact with nature, with ourselves, with the divinity, not based on what we receive, but on what we give. To obtain what we need, we have to value, to offer something in exchange. We have to understand that every gesture has a specific reward. But the self builds a barrier that hinder this practice, protecting our goods and our mindset and our relations. So we have to learn to negotiate with the self in order to transcend and evolve. The practice of ID does not search for selfishness, but the respect for differences. In our daily life, we can begin with small symbolic exchanges with the people we share, not only in our daily life, but also in our social life. And so Heine is the practice of giving to receive. It supports universal equilibrium and connects us to the pure energy of Pachamama. And in applying it to our life, we can have a more balanced and harmonious existence. So this is a vision of the Aymara world. Thank you, Jerry. And now I give the floor to Manuel. About the good living, we agree on many things, but I want to make a reflection. From the Western point of view, from an ethical Western philosophical point of view, talking to some elderly of our community, he made a criticism about what was the summa causa, that was often equivalent to the good living. But the oldest people start from everything, and they do not divide reality. Rather, they see reality in its wholeness, in its integrity. It is like a coincidence with the concept according to which everything is life, and we all need someone else. So, from this, in this reflection we made, the good living is a platform starting from which we can all be part of Mother Earth. We'll have a relationship with God and with others and with ourselves. Even in our relationship with the elderly. So these relations very often generate suffering. Not only the suffering of connected to the category of good living, but there is a further step to take, which is the summa causa for a good life of fullness, where we can go beyond the good living. So the point is not only living in a simple relationship, but living in a relationship of reciprocity and complementarity, a life of correspondence, of celebration. These principles, we have to bring them ahead. However, some people say that this was often, this concept have been often emptied of their integrity and given us as something empty. So as if everything meant having. So apart from being, we don't see anything. The part of being takes into consideration being as persons, as a collective, being a community. A community has a spirit. So here we have the summa causa. And we can say that this can be overcome by another issue, which is the Pussi causa, which is a life of joy, which does not mean that there are no conflicts and there are no problems, but it is a life where human beings already got to complete themselves with nature, with the others, and with oneself. So there is no way to exclude. Even the opposite can be live together. It is a way of living because they complete each other all the time. So for us, for our environment, for example, we talk, for example, of health, and where diseases are produced by an excess of cold are to be treated with something hot. So in these summi causa is to have a relationship in order to have a joy of life, not laughing all the time, but a life of solid happiness despite the difficult situations. So as persons, we know how to live with others, we know how to generate alternatives in order to generate harmony, on the one hand. And on the other hand, where the elderly say that it is Gisi Causi, Gisi Causi is a life of light, it is a pattern. That is why in our environment, the wise people are called aciteuta. They give the example, they generate examples, people who know how to live with in harmony with what surrounds them. This does not mean that they don't have problems or they don't have conflicts, but rather that they know how to solve the problems, they know how to deal with these issues. And that's a model that many young people want to bring ahead. Anyway, today much work has been done. At least we discussed a lot about the part of having, and godfathers and godmothers are chosen for what they are, not only for what they have. And in this moment, there is a reflection according to which many people, especially many young people, say we are going to a wrong direction. So when you choose a sponsor that has more, we have to follow the example of the people who give more. In the way to live in harmony with nature, in living with others, in relating ourselves not only with others, but with all those who surround us. And that is a reason that when one of the parents called these God children, they are called Godfather or Godmother, so that they can be light and generate this space for reflection, and they can generate this space of mediation in order to be models for them too. So we have these 4 elements with a vision here. And here they set out to work, and this breaks with the whole reflection that we had in the past, and that only good living is a status, it is like a staircase, but very low. And even this Sumikausi was emptied of the main concepts. There is also a term, Shanayamaya. So this word, Shama, what is good, and that is the unity of the opposites, what the Western logic calls that two opposites cannot be together. This is false. The denial of beauty is what is sublime. And here we have what we can work with us, and we can have a coexistence here. The disease caused by cold can be treated with hot and vice versa, also in the principles. So this is what I can say, that if we revise talking to the elderly, then this space can be, the concepts are taken up that we used before, what we try to live in the community. And here we need to say that when we talk about I or we are not only talking about an anthropocentric vision, but rather about a cosmocentric vision where the us is being at the side of animals, at the side of plants, at the side of God, at the side of a whole. If I separate myself from the whole, then I become an orphan, and I cannot achieve the fullness that is the Achikausa, and I cannot enjoy the Achikausa of a life in joy. This is what we can say about the good living. The good living is a launching pad to begin to climb what is the best way of thinking and expressing themselves of our elderly. Thank you, Jerry, and Harry. Thank you, Manuel. We conclude here. It was very rich. They led us into this relationality that goes ahead with nature, with God, and with the cosmos. So thank you again for this moment.
We are very happy to be here with Doña Mesida, who is known as Grandma Tina. She is from the Maya Cachiquén culture from San Martin and from Guatemala. And with us is Nona Maya, Nona Tina, who is about to share a little bit of her ancestral wisdom which nourishes our peoples here in Guatemala. Sister Tina, could you please tell us a little bit about the principles of the vision of the Maya world here in Guatemala? First of all, have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time of day or night you are going to watch this or share this and share this the wisdom of the life of our peoples. Wisdom which I consider to be the greatest gift that God bestows on every person and on every man, in the heart of everyone, but also giving identity not only to the person, not only family identity, but especially to human identity. We are human persons, complete persons, because we are sons and daughters of God. And for us, For our indigenous persons, God is a father, but also a mother. We're not saying that God is a man or a woman. God is God. God is the heart of life of every human being and every dimension that wishes to nourish life of every person and Mother Nature, as well as the animals, plants, mountains, and rivers. So to know where I am planted, where I am walking, what I am eating, what I feel is crucial. And this gift is called life. This is a life which is not just a movement, it's not just dancing, it's not just telling a story, but it's embracing God, Mother and Father. And as we feel this way, I feel this way, our people have taught us, families, peoples. We feel that God is, as again, I'm not saying whether they are male or female, that's not the point, but that God acts within and outside of us as a mother and a father, as a grandmother and as a grandfather. This is where we find the strength to make of each one of us those persons who are alive, as well as those persons who are responsible for personal life, for family life, and for looking after our nearest ones, including our neighbors, with everything pertaining to Mother Earth, animals, wind, trees, water, earth. Before everything, we call her Mother Earth because she is our snapshot. She tells us everything, but also asks us to look after life and our path. Like her, Mother Earth nourishes us and gives us everything in every part of the world, whether they are native people or indigenous people. We have this principle of looking after, caring for human life, the life of persons, the life of plants. And also we take care of those who are sick, of our sickness. Of every sickness, we need to learn the origin, as well as struggling to come out of this and not being involved in it too much and not being blocked by it. We need to be complete people in a harmonious relationship with God, with the environment, that is, with our Mother Earth, and also with the mistakes and limitations we find ourselves in, with space, with air, such as with cold, with heat, in pain and in suffering. For me, these are the supporting pillars, the strengths based on which we are the seed of God. This is the sowing of the seed of God. But also, depending on how life is, we know God. He is mother, father, grandmother, grandfather. And this is why our relationship with God, we call him as our grandparents have taught us, our mother, our father. The family teaches us. We try to feel that God is our mother, is our father, a sister, a brother, and any person for us, family or not, is sacred, because life is sacred, and life is sacred also for me. We say in Spanish that it's a life principle, but for us it's a blessing, it's a gift of God. This is the relic that our grandmothers, our grandparents have left to us, even if they had to fight for it, if they had to give their life for this. Yet, those of us who are still on this sacred earth wish to share, as when we share around the fire as a family, we share an omelette or beans or work or poverty, and if there is money to get dressed or for more. But for us, this is a life which where we have a gift, the gift of God, to be weavers, not only of human life or Mother Nature, but also in our way of dressing, in our way of treating people. And this is why, knowing that I was coming here to share, I put on this sacred costume made of the women from the women of Santa Maria de Jesus, where women are still preserved. Those who weave and who sew are preserved by the wisdom of God, not only in Mother Earth, but also to weave this costume. This is one which is made by Santa Maria de Jesus. It was made at the time when I became a grandmother. This is my age, and this is why I love the identity of every person. And it is for this reason that I wanted to share with you, and I want to continue to share where God will continue to sow, because every space, every event, every path we undertake is a new life, a new opportunity to be. And I want to understand, I must understand that with our heart we are not alone. We have a family, we have people beside us, we have people with whom we wish to work and with whom we sometimes fight. We need to get to know our heart, we need to get our thought, we need to understand the way of thinking, the way of talking that every group of person has. And with the blessing of our God, Mother and Father, who gave us a culture, and we are the Maya people who are native in Guatemala. We are in Central America and other parts of the world. The indigenous worlds are those who say that God has sown from the beginning of humanity to give us different talents, depending on which space we live in and what is given to us. And in this way, we are going to develop our way of being, not only in order to receive, but also to be a fruit, to be weavers, to be a path, to be a word which consoles and which redeems. Thank you, Marie-Flore. Thank you to all our friends from Latin America. I think I express this great existential wealth which we have felt here in the hall about what these people are telling us. This touching of God, Mother is important, and Mother Earth. So there must be a link between nature and God, and we find this in the mystics of the Middle Ages. Hildegard, Bingen, just to mention one name, but we find it also in our more recent Chiara Lubic in St. Augustine, when we speak about Sile Trinitatis, and our Sergio Rondinara would talk about a made in Trinity nature. Another interesting point is the third person, which we find in quantum mechanics, but also in the manifesto of Nicolescu. Very good. And we are now forced to move on to English, but we're happy about this as well, because we have two more very important contributions.
And we are very happy to have John Mundell between us. John Mundell is a coordinator of the Laudato Si Action Platform.
Perdón.
John are among us, I hope so. And John sustained very strongly this conference. And the floor is yours, John.
Very good. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Very good. Let me go ahead and share. I can.
Yes.
Okay. Can you see?
Yes, we can see correctly.
Good. Well, good day, everyone. It's great to be here at this conference. And I want to always start with this first slide just to center ourselves on what we're talking about. We're all contained in this little blue dot. So we have to have these relational exchanges because of the proximity to everyone, and the proximity is getting closer and closer every year as we move around this planet. Today, I'm going to talk about and introduce you to something called the Laudato Si Action Platform, but more importantly, how that platform is raising awareness with young people on global challenges. You know, the climate change, our international inequality, and migration. And I want to do this because I want to make you aware of it, and also I want to make young people aware of the power of this kind of platform and an initiative by the Vatican that can really have an impact. So I'd like to start out with this quote from Pope Francis, gave us last year when he came out with an apostolic exhortation called Laudate Deum. And the quote is this: "There are no lasting changes without cultural changes, without a maturing of lifestyles and convictions within societies, and there are no cultural changes without personal changes." It's a very strong statement, and it's a big challenge to all of us, recognizing that it's easy to point to something we wished for in society or in the world, but it really starts with us. And I think young people have experienced that and recognize that. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about how this platform, which I'll describe to you, really is informing young people and encourage them to become key actors in addressing some of the global challenges. You know, these challenges are obvious. We have climate change that is impacting everyone, but not equally. You can see on this slide the kind of migration that is happening, internal migration in countries, and it's not equally distributed. We also have our understanding that these migrations can cause global tensions and difficulties, and that they're a consequence of this environmental degradation and social economic disparities. So this platform is a forum for encouraging young people to understand that and to feel that in their very bones. This also illustrates how much this migration will be happening likely in the future. And again, it's not all consistent around the world, with a lot more of the migration happening in certain parts of the world, like the sub-Saharan Africa. So again, these are the global issues that the Laudato Si Action Platform are informing youth about and calling them to action. So what is the platform? It's this Vatican-led initiative. It started 3 years ago, really, in a very key way, and its purpose is to invite us on a journey of ecological conversion in the spirit of integral ecology. And what we have is we invite various sectors that are supported by all kinds of resources on the platform, guides, actions, and also ideas and webinars to build a global community. And the purpose really is to respond to this cry of the earth, the cry of the poor, and also this cry of future generations. And so what's the intent, or what's the big picture here is, you can imagine, when we feel alone, when we're isolated and we do our part, it's a little drop in a pond, right? That upper left picture where you see the ripples come out, but it's a small impact. And oftentimes, if we're keeping our own lives in separate, we have lots of little impacts, but they don't gather steam, they don't coalesce. Whereas if we're able to bring this global community in focus, like the platform is trying, we can create literally a tidal wave of something that's good, a tidal wave of care for creation. And that's one of the aspects of the platform. Just to point out where the youth fit into this, these sectors, you can see a list of the sectors we have in the platform, from dioceses to parishes, from families, schools, universities, religious congregations. This month, we will exceed 10,000 organizations that have signed up to the platform, representing or touching more than 125 million people. That sounds like a big number, but with 1.3 billion Catholics, we're still a long ways from engaging everyone. But you can see where I've circled this, where this platform is an opportunity for young people to engage at different levels, either within their families or their parishes, religious communities, or at schools, in their schools and universities. A significant number of schools and universities have signed up to the platform to make changes and begin planning for climate action and for sustainability. And why are young people encouraged about this? They're encouraged about this because they like the idea that we live what we believe. They've seen a lot of not living what we believe in the world. And I can point to many cases, especially here in the United States. But we become more credible when we actually live what we believe. That's very encouraging. We're also more effective when we act together, as the tidal wave illustrated. And we're effective when we publicly commit to specific actions, which the platform encourages. When you say you're going to do something, you tend to, and tell everyone, you tend to want to do it because it'll be embarrassing if you don't. Also, we begin to inspire each other locally by looking at the global situation and becoming aware of it. And we also understand the urgency, because as these young people engage with each other on the platform and across the world, they become aware of their friends that are suffering because of climate change. So what do we do? How do we go about this? Well, we have these series of Laudato Si goals that are comprehensive. They touch a lot of different aspects of our lives, everything from education to spiritual formation to lifestyle to how we deal with our financial situations and our economics, and how we specifically address the cries of the earth and the cries of the poor. So what we have here is a platform that allows unique choices made depending on where you are at geographically or what your sector is in. For example, family's a lot different than a university. And also, it gives an opportunity to track progress through some sustainability parameters we use on the platform. And finally, it really is this thing to make things concrete, not just theoretical. So what does it do? It puts us on this pilgrimage, this journey of ecological conversion, which my cohort, my friend there, Alonzo, who's part of this conversation on the platform with me, he'll talk about on Sunday. But it really is to try to take stock in where you are and where you want to go and the challenges that you're going to face along that way. And Alonzo will talk more about that on Sunday. And so I like this quote from a famous American Franciscan, Father Richard Rohr. We do not think ourselves into new ways of living. We live ourselves into new ways of thinking. And young people understand that. They understand, and we've seen this in many of the events on the platform and the world events with young people, that by living this, they actually change themselves. Sometimes it isn't just words that change, it's actually their involvement, engagement, and actions all over the world. And so one example of this is what they're doing in universities, very positive things where they're responding, they're creating new curriculum. This is some examples from the university sector. They're creating green communities on campus. They are having sharing shops where they exchange clothes with each other on campus. There are a number of things that the university sector particularly are doing that young people are leading the charge and showing here's how we want to live in a new world. And so it's encouraging, it's inspiring, and their work inspires others who are just beginning this journey. And so we have many resources on the platform. This is one called 12 Ways Young People Can Live Laudato Si. But again, allowing them and giving them structure and resources to become the protagonist and to inspire us in their choices they make in everyday life. And I would end with this, really, how do we begin this? People say it's so overwhelming and, there are so many challenges. We often just say it just begins with that first step. It's that first little change in your lifestyle that does it. And we've seen young people do this all over the globe. We've seen World Youth Day activities last year where young people really came together. One of the themes was integral ecology and began interacting globally so they can have an impact. We've seen it in the work we've done in encouraging tree plantings in the Run for Unity event the year before last, where we had tens of thousands of trees planted around the world. And also this recent gathering in Brazil, GenFest, of a lot of young people, where they really wanted to take the next step to have an impact on the next climate COP meeting in Brazil. And I'll give you one, hopefully this will work. Let's see if it'll work if I tee this up. I don't know if you can see this or hear this. Let's see. This is an example on the left of learning when they come together of the different culture, a different culture in New Zealand where they become sensitive to the ecological underpinnings of that Maori culture. And again, if you look at these T-shirts, what's on these T-shirts in the middle? We're all connected. Young people feel that in their bones, and that's one thing that the platform is helping them experience so that they can become a driving force. So I think with that, I'll kind of end there and just say that one thing we hope to also leave them with the platform is hope, because there's a lot of angst out there, a lot of anxiety among young people. What's happening? These kind of sharing of experiences globally give them hope. And when you plant the seeds of hope, you begin to harvest hope. This song that was written, I love the refrain. We are harvesting hope. We are reaching out. We are gathering in. We are harvesting hope. That's what the platform does for young people who engage with the platform. And I would encourage young people there to come on board, to become involved, to take leadership so that we can really make this transformation, this ecological conversion within the church and beyond, and begin to see impact. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. You transmitted us a lot of hope.
Grazie.
With such an impressive presentation. And I think that now we have to take the first step our organization in this journey of 1,000 miles, and probably each of the organization we represent here, we have to enroll in the Laudato Si Action Platform. This is a concrete engagement we take here. So now it is my pleasure to give the floor to Elvis Ng'Andwe. He is advocate of the High Court of Zambia, but he is also responsible of an NGO in Brussels, and we met there. So the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening to you all. Like Luke said already, I'm Elvis Ng'Andwe, Executive Secretary of Africa, Europe, Faith and Justice Network. I'm very happy to be here. Basically, I'm going to share with you on empowering youth to tackle global challenges, a comparative analysis of the UN 2030 and then the EU Global Gateway and the African Continental Free Trade Area, also known as AfCFTA. Basically, this presentation examines these key documents, the Agenda 2030, and then the African Free Trade Area, which is AfCFTA, and then the EU's Global Gateway Initiative. Each of these addresses global challenges such as inequality, climate change, and economic development, and highlights the critical role of the youth in shaping these solutions. Okay, I go like that, all right. So, when we look at the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, just to pick a few elements, look at the global challenges such as SDG number 10, inequality. The economic disparities continue to grow, particularly between the global north and south, limiting the opportunities for marginalized groups. And then we also observe that climate action, SDG 13, the burden of climate change disproportionately affects vulnerable populations in the global south, increasing inequality. I'm going to comment a bit on this one, but let me just go to another point. The decent work, that is SDG number 8, youth unemployment is a pressing issue worldwide, particularly in developing regions. And then finally, under this one, it is the innovation and infrastructure, SDG number 9, which reflects a lack of technological advancements and the infrastructure that hinders economic growth, especially in Africa. Now, I'd like to comment a bit on the SDG number 13, climate action. I come from Zambia. The reason I'm mentioning that is, if you have been following news, you might have noticed that Zambia experienced the worst drought in history. We have never had such kind of droughts. We have been hearing about droughts in the Bible, but never in action like that. We didn't have rains at all in certain parts of Zambia, and we ran out of water in our hydroelectrical power. We don't have power. We have like load shedding of 20 hours. So out of 24 hours, we have like 4 hours power, you know. And many people planted seed, but nothing grew because there was no rain. It was difficult. Who would have imagined that? So climate change is real, and this needs action. So, and then another issue which we need to pay attention to is the unemployment. So due to climate change and the lack of transfer of technology, we have a problem of unemployment among the youth. If we had certain elements of determining where we are going to experience droughts and where we are going to have rainfall, we would have evidenced that, because certain parts of Zambia had rainfall. But then the traditional parts where we farm, there was no rain. You know? So the areas where people don't farm, where they are doing mining, that's where it was raining. Yeah. The areas where they do agriculture, there was no rain. But no one knew because we didn't have this technology. Now, what kind of role can the youth play on this one? The youth can advocate for reduced inequality. Like youth movements are crucial in this. Like here in the Global North, the youth can connect with the youth in Global South. What we call youth-to-youth or child-to-child action. They engage in this kind of conversation and they see how they can support each other, exchange of knowledge, exchange of wisdom, so that they talk to one another directly. Of course, I can share this information with my big brother Luca, with the Fiorani movement, ECO1, but then it's better that the youth engage one-to-one. In that way, they can communicate better and how they can influence this. but especially they can help a lot in climate change and transfer of technology. The youth-led initiatives are very vital. Then there is an issue of Global Gateway. Global Gateway has challenges such as debt and inequality. Global Gateway, I don't want to go in details because we don't have enough time, but I presume you have read about Global Gateway. So Global Gateway, it's the EU's way of relating with Africa. It's like the EU foreign policy towards the rest of the world, but mainly focusing on Africa. So they are giving loans and so forth. But in giving these loans, they don't engage the civil society organizations. They engage the state leaders. And we are managed by, our countries are led by leaders who have very little concern for the ordinary people. And they don't consult us. In the end, they are borrowing and borrowing more money, and they are getting us indebted. So if we engage the youth in Global South and the youth here to have a seat on the table, then they can stop this kind of irrational borrowing, you know? And then also climate justice, the rush for critical raw materials. I think you have read about the Critical Raw Materials Act in Brussels, which is a hot issue, because the EU's foreign policy now, or philosophy, is that it's about growth and development. You know, human rights are coming very secondary, which is very dangerous because the European Union was known for supporting human rights. But von der Leyen, the president of the Commission, made a very powerful speech on growth and development, and human rights are very secondary. Yeah. So it's up to us here, especially the youth, to stand up and defend Europe, defend the world. Together, you stand with your brothers and sisters in the Global South, and you are here, you can make advocacy programs where you make policy engagement. You cannot say you are the leaders of tomorrow, you are leaders of today. Yeah. So these things of postponing your responsibility every time is not helping to solve the problems in the world. And of course, the EU is trying to argue that it is because of the Russians and the Chinese in Africa. That's why you also want to go and take our part. But then if you find somebody destroying things, you cannot behave that way if you're not that kind of a person. So the solution, of course, would be engage the youth there to stop the Russians and the Chinese, and eventually maybe the EU also will withdraw. But the things as they stand today, it is clear that in the next 10 years, Africa will be in a very bad condition if the speed at which critical raw materials are being extracted continues, and it's going to destroy the balance of ecology. Relational sustainability will be difficult to hold together. And then finally, another issue which could be of interest is what we call the African Continental Free Trade Area, where this could be a good thing if it succeeds, because it will mean Africans relating with one another as brothers and sisters in the light of fraternity. We remove the borders. But the reason why it has failed is this. If you look at this map is showing the regional blocks in Africa. You have censored COMESA, you have East African Community, and many more, ECOWAS and SADC. Now, they removed their borders so that they could transact among themselves as Africans. Why have they failed? They have failed because the EU brings the EPAs, you know, the Economic Partnership Agreements. When you take Economic Partnership Agreements into Africa, you find that this AFCTA falls apart. Because instead of African countries trading with one another, each one is competing and in view of trading with the EU. You see? So the EU knows very well what they're doing. So that's why I was laughing the other day when they were saying, EU is trying to unite Africa. I said, please. So the role of the youth here again is to exchange knowledge between the Global North and Global South and see how you can make digital trade, we can make entrepreneurship, and you can make advocacy for inclusivity and make a better tomorrow. Of course, you can see the conclusion there it is. As we have seen, these documents highlight the intersection of global challenges, inequality, climate change, and economic growth, with the pivotal role of the youth in driving solutions. By engaging in advocacy, innovation, and leadership, young people can help shape a more and just sustainable future with the framework of the UN, EU, and AU initiatives. So that pie chart shows where the youth can engage and how they can make a difference. So if you try to solve inequality with 20% engagement. That's what we can get, and that's what we can get from climate justice. That's what we can get from economic growth, and that's what we can get from innovation. But more importantly, the youth engagement is very instrumental because like in Africa, the biggest population is the youth. Yeah. So if we engage the youth in Global South and the Global North, then we have a very big chance of securing our future. Relational sustainability is a must. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Elvis. I think your presentation, your talk was really the icing on the cake, giving us the perspective from Africa. We really missed it, and it is very important, very enlightening. And well, I think we, as European, we have to reflect a lot about what you said. Now, it's time to stop this session, and we have the poster session just now. We have the possibility to drink a glass of wine all together and take a look of the posters. About tomorrow, and I switch to Italian, then I will explain you. Passo all'italiano per maggiore sicurezza.
I propose that we meet tomorrow at 9 all together. And then, as you know, tomorrow there will be the parallel session and we'll split in the different groups as you want. But if we say it now, you will forget about it. It is better that we meet here at 9 and then we split into the groups tomorrow morning. So thanks to everyone and have a nice icebreaker. And I was told there will be a prosecco as a drink. So.